Well, no time like the present.
Yeah, are you gonna start? You say words and then I say words after you. That's how it's done, right?
That's called talking.
Okay.
He doesn't know how to talk. This is the Out of Touch podcast.
Today we're talking about... Oh my god.
That was a lot of blood.
Yes, it was.
This is an interesting show.
Yes, well, welcome back to another episode of the Out of Touch podcast. We are super prepared as usual and giving you the level of professionalism you expect from us. I'm Chris, and that's Bill, and today we are talking about Invincible, the comic that apparently everybody has known about forever, and I just found out about it because of the cartoon. So, Bill, what did you think of Invincible?
Well, I mean, I'd heard of it before this. I mean, the show was actually really good, first of all.
I didn't know anything about this until I saw the preview for it, and I was just like, this is interesting. Original action cartoon, and then it's like, no, it's a comic. And I was like, oh, it's written by the Walking Dead guy. I'm like, oh, crazy. I'm like, when did he write this? He wrote it literally at the same time writing The Walking Dead. And I'm like, wow, that is insane.
Yeah, like I'd heard of it. I think I'd seen pictures of the main character, and I knew like two things about it really. I knew it was, at first it seemed very kind of like, oh, Spider-Man, but a little brutal, but then it took a big left turn at one point.
Yeah. I did not expect the left turn. In fact, you watched it with me, and then the first episode, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this show. It's kind of like, okay, it's like superheroes, but not the superheroes you know. It's sort of like the Justice League, but not the Justice League. And then Omni Man shows up and kills the Justice League. And I'm like, oh my god. And you're like, yeah, that's kind of the thing with this.
Spoilers, by the way.
Yeah, duh. Spoilers, I guess, just in case we just spoiled the first episode of Invincible for you.
I'll put it in the title. It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, like the first episode really lulls you in. It's not even that violent. That first episode
until the very end.
It's got some blood. But then during the credits, and then the credits just stop, and then it just goes holy shit hardcore when Omni Man murders the not Justice League.
Yeah, I mean.
Good
crazy,
God.
like people's heads getting crushed and...
Dude, what he did to not Batman, that Darkwing character, he just ragdolled him, and he was like, his brain just splattered. It was crazy.
It was crazy. This show is extremely violent.
But it's, unlike a show like The Boys, which is super cynical, it's not really a cynical show.
Yeah.
It just takes like this kind of like superhero world and it's like, well, realistic violence to it. If a man with the strength of Superman punches you in the face, your head's going to explode and there's going to be blood and guts everywhere.
Yeah. I guess like to anybody that doesn't know, the quick synopsis of the story is Invincible is a story of Mark Grayson, who is the son of this universe's Superman called Omni Man, and Mark Grayson at the beginning of the show is waiting to get his powers. He's working at like McDonald's, and then he finally gets his powers when he's throwing garbage into the dumpster, and then the show is just about him becoming a superhero and then finding out his dad is actually evil and killed the Justice League.
Yeah, like from what I understand, the comic took like 14 or so issues to reveal that, for that moment to happen. So everything just seemed kind of normal, but because we get it in the first episode, the entire first season is just filled with this dramatic irony of just like, we know, so there's this sense of impending dread of like, oh my god, what, this is gonna turn, oh my god, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. One thing about this show too is every episode is like an hour long.
It's animated, but it's the length of a typical live action drama. It's like 44 minutes to a degree.
Yeah, because if you think about it, if it was like a normal cartoon, it's like, wow, this would have been like a 16 episode
more or less
season, and it's just like because like you think like, oh, it speeds through stuff that the comic book does, and having no knowledge of the comic book, I'm just like, huh. In some ways, it almost keeps pace with the comic book. I have been told stuff happens in different orders in the comic book, but
Well, you're always going to remix things into an adaptation.
yeah,
Like, the episode length kind of reminds me of how, like, the second season of Justice League, even though everything was technically a two-parter, they aired everything in an hour block, so it was like having an hour-long primetime animated show.
Yeah.
And this kind of reminds me of that, just even more adult.
yeah, definitely. And yeah, it's weird because like the story is, I guess the interesting aspect is like, what if Superman was actually like sent to Earth to take over the Earth?
I mean, that's just one story element. Like, the whole
Yeah.
thing doesn't just seem to be just that. That's just one thing. Like,
I mean, we have this world that is very much like DC/Marvel-esque.
there's a lot of kind of familiar remixed things. Like, there's one character, Monster Girl. She's kind of a Hulk type character.
Yeah.
There's a teen team. They're basically the Teen Titans to a degree.
Yeah.
Instead of Cyborg, they have Robot.
Yeah. Robot. They have like a Nick Fury that can teleport, but I was also confused on if he actually had the power to teleport or if he was like using some sort of machine to
I think
teleport.
he just has a teleporter because he can teleport other people too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's really not that much difference between him and Nick Fury, honestly.
Yeah, instead of an eye patch, he has like a weird scar on his face.
Yeah, like
Cecil.
there's that one character. What's his real name? Because I think both of us just kept calling him things like Detective Hellboy,
Oh, yeah.
Hellboy Constantine,
What is his name? He was like something like Damien Brimstone or something.
Damien Darkblood, I think.
Yeah, that's it,
something like
Darkblood.
that.
Yeah, Hellboy Constantine.
Yeah, he's Hellboy in a Constantine coat, but he's also a little like the Phantom Stranger. There's a lot of familiar, but there's also there's some new stuff like Adam Eve. She's not like any character I've seen before.
Yeah, she's got like weird creation powers.
She
I
can
guess.
seem to affect things on a molecular level or something like that.
Yeah, I guess we'll just talk about some of the characters of the show. Like what did you think of Mark Grayson, the main character?
I mean, he's likable, like
Yeah.
he's a good kid,
He's a good boy.
I like kind of watching him like learn his powers and like he just like, okay, if I could figure out to fly, screw it. He said Dad said it's like a reflex, so I'm just gonna jump out a window
Yeah.
or jump off the roof, I should say.
Yeah, he's interesting because he just wants to do good, but like the show kind of like immediately throws him with like the realities of like being a superhero and how it takes a, I guess, more realistic approach to like, yeah, you're not gonna like save everybody. Also, your powers are gonna kind of indirectly or sometimes even directly like cause somebody to die just because if you got like thrown into a building or something like that or something crazy. But yeah,
Oh yeah,
it's hard to. He's kind of like, I guess, a Spider-Man-esque sort of.
he's got a little bit of a lot of things. Like, he's got the Spider-Man stuff in that his secret identity causes relationship problems and friend problems, but like he's got that kind of Superman type power set of flight and super strength.
Yeah, no eye beams.
No, they leave that out.
Yeah.
There's no Homelander situation here.
No eye beams or freeze breath, but like he is invulnerable. I mean, that's why he's called Invincible.
He's invulnerable
To a degree.
To a degree. He bleeds a lot.
Yeah, he does. It's weird too, because even Omni Man is, when he fights the Justice League.
The Guardians of the Globe.
Yeah, Guardians of
But
the
they're
Globe.
the Justice League. There's a not Batman, a not Wonder Woman with the shade of Thor thrown in. There's a not Martian Manhunter, a not Flash, a not Green Lantern, another not Superman.
Yeah, like they are capable of like hurting him, and he kind of like takes them out as like a preemptive strike. But I guess like they're not as super as Superman, where
No, because like they hurt him, but like it really only takes like one hit from him to really mess them up.
yeah. But yeah, Mark. And I guess we'll talk about Omni Man because he's kind of like the most interesting part of the show, at least for me.
I could see that. I
Yeah.
mean, he's voiced by J.K. Simmons. It's like a Superman with like the Reed Richards hair and a mustache.
Yeah, he's got a mustache. His like whole deal too, like, towards the end of the show you find out, his race, they're called Viltrumites, which is kind of like a weird, corny name for aliens, but it fits for the universe.
It's a very like comic booky universe. So that works. It definitely works.
Yeah, and he like one thing that's interesting about him is like really towards the end of the show, he's like, hey, like, he fights his son, of course, and he's like,
calling it a fight's a bit much.
yeah, well, okay, he just beats the shit out of his son.
It is a brutal beating. It is child abuse, basically.
Yeah, but like his whole deal is like, listen, like we're gonna live like forever compared to humans. Like
your mother's like a pet to me.
Yeah, which is like really messed up.
Oh, I mean, everything about that sequence is so messed up.
Yeah, I mean, he says like in like the span of my life, this like interaction of like coming to Earth and raising you is like a dot. Like it's just like it doesn't matter. Like these people don't matter. Like this planet doesn't matter. We're just getting it ready for the Empire, and it's just like, and it's almost like throughout the show you see like how like Omni Man has instances of like he doesn't really care. He's sort of just like doing this as his job, but then like sometimes you're like maybe he does care. But it was like an interesting approach to like the Superman character where he's not really trying to be like humans. He's more or less better than humans, but like he's kind of like tolerating them almost. I don't know, he's like interesting, but he's also like a psychopath that like literally like kills people like in kind of like brutal ways and for really no reason, especially in that one episode. Like Mark saves a pilot and then Omni Man just like, why'd you save that guy? He doesn't matter, smash. Like,
oh dude, that was like, kind of knew it was coming, but like, jeez.
Yeah.
Just squashed it like it was a grape.
Yeah. I guess some of the other characters too that are interesting in this show that are a little unique is, Adam Eve, like you mentioned, she's got interesting powers. Also, it's kind of unclear how the people on Earth have powers. We're not really introduced to like, are there metahumans or is everybody just like
everyone
some sort of an
to,
experiment?
I would just assume everyone just kind of has their own origin story.
Yeah.
Like there really is. You just have to assume, just like any comic book universe, like this guy got bit by a thing, struck by this, run over by that, like goo, particle accelerator.
Goo.
The Ninja Turtles fell in goo.
That's true. Science goo.
It was ooze, man. Come on.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, with Adam Eve, too.
There was also the demon guy. He's magic, so there's magic stuff. Her powers could be magic based. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know because like we see her parents and they're just like kind of like normal people.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, what's the deal with her? Like, is she just like born like that, or did something happen? I guess we'll find out later on. But I have no knowledge of the comics whatsoever. So.
I only have knowledge of just some stuff I looked up out of just sheer curiosity.
Yeah.
But I tried to avoid any potential spoilers for at least the upcoming seasons 2 and 3 that the show's already been renewed for.
Yeah, it's weird too because, throughout the show, it's like Adam Eve and like Mark definitely are attracted to each other, but like at the beginning of the show, Adam Eve is with like this other guy named Rexplode who is so obnoxious. Like
you kind of want to punch him in the face.
Yeah.
Though they break up because he's cheating on her with the girl that can replicate herself.
Yeah, and she like walks in on Rex and the girl making a bunch of copies of herself while they're doing it. It's like wow.
It's funny because we were watching that episode together as well, and I made a comment about like, hey Mark, why don't you go with her? There could be some interesting stuff. And then that scene happened. I was like, I was right.
Yeah. And like Mark is also dating a girl named Amber who it's really weird because like throughout the show it's like you get it like this type of drama stuff, teen drama, like you're like, why doesn't Mark and Adam Eve like date because like this Amber girl is kind of like, I don't know, she's not like completely unlikable, but like he's constantly having to lie to her and she's getting like mad about it. And then when he finally tells her I'm a superhero, she's just like, yeah, I knew the whole time. And I'm like, no, you didn't. Like, you wouldn't have made like such a big deal about like all the crazy shit that happened at the college episode. But
I mean, I was surprised that they actually got back together at the end of the season, kind of. But,
yeah.
I mean, spoiler for the comic, I guess. He ends up with Adam Eve.
Okay. Well, yeah, good. I guess. But I guess it takes a while.
I mean, that's kind of how you do it long-term storytelling.
Yeah.
You don't put Ross and Rachel together at the first episode of Friends. You wait till the very last episode.
Anybody remember Friends from the 90s?
I mean, all those people looking forward to that Friends reunion, I guess.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But, yeah. Yeah, you get some, like, teenage, like, love triangle type of stuff happening in the show.
I mean, it's very subtle. Like it's clear that Mark was kind of into Adam Eve initially, but then he like immediately backed off. It's like, oh, she got a boyfriend, and then he kind of started pursuing Amber. But then once Adam Eve kind of broke things off with whatever douchebag's name was,
Rexplode.
Sure. She clearly kind of like, oh, I kind of dig this guy. She kind of actually goes to kind of like talk to him, but he's hooking up with Amber, and she's like, oh. And I was actually kind of surprised. Her response is like, oh, yeah, good for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's like, oh, she's a good friend. She's not going to be all like petty and jealous.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of refreshing too.
Yeah.
She was just like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah,
never
like,
mind.
There's moments when like things are rocky between Mark and Amber, and she sticks up for Mark, and she's like, look, he'd be here if he could.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah. Like,
supporting friends. It's a nice thing. Like when his best friend finds out, and he's supportive as well.
Yeah. Yeah, he has a friend named William, and man, there was like a crazy episode.
He kind of disappears in like the middle there for a minute, but then he comes back. Like,
yeah, you feel like he probably should be maybe a little bit more important. I guess he will be in like season 2, but
because it's like he's there in like episode 1 and 2, and he's kind of gone for a couple. Really, he's not really around. But I guess that's kind of the point, because Mark hadn't really was being kind of like off being a superhero.
Yeah. And like William, there's an episode where like Mark and William and Amber go like visit a college, and then like William's dating this guy, and the guy gets kidnapped by this insane student that's turning people into like robot people, and it's like horrifying, and you're like, oh my god, like what the heck is up with this? This is crazy. And like that type of stuff is just so...
It's definitely some nightmare fuel.
Yeah, it really freaks me out, like stuff like that with like
some animated body horror.
Yeah, like I was like, oh geez, this is crazy. Yeah, there are like a few one-off villains in the show that happen. There's the guy that turns people into robots. There is kind of like this one like reoccurring, I guess, guy that has like earthquake powers that shows up, and he gets like thrown into space, and you see him.
There's those aliens from like another, wherever they're from, thing. It goes at like a different time, so like decades are like taking place in between their invasion, which is like every like 20 minutes they keep popping through the portals.
Yeah, like time flows faster for them, but that actually is interesting, because they try to invade the Earth like a couple times, and finally they're stopped when Omni Man shows up, and he just goes into one of the portals, and I guess like spends like a year like just wrecking their planet, because he comes back and he's got like long hair and a beard.
That montage is pretty twisted.
Yeah, it's one of the more fun but like crazy elements of the show. Yeah, one thing that's interesting too is like Mark's mom is kind of an important character, and she's sort of like very used to the superhero stuff.
Oh yeah.
At least at first, until she starts investigating like, your husband's an asshole. But
when things start to get weird, she starts to break down.
Yeah, but
like all this stuff that didn't bother her for like probably the longest time just finally bubbling to the surface.
Yeah, it is interesting though, because that alien invasion happens kind of close to the beginning of the show.
Second episode.
Yeah, and like Mark's like, Dad went into like a portal, and she's just like, oh, is that it? It's like, he'll be
God.
home for dinner. It's
So,
fine.
she's just like, oh, so he's gonna be late for dinner.
Yeah. There's only 8 episodes.
They all kind of run together, especially because they dropped 3 at once at first.
Yeah, stop doing that, Amazon. I want to just like watch one at a time, especially if they're like hour longs.
It's nice to savor things occasionally. That's why I don't Netflix binge watch anymore. I can't do it.
Yeah, it's too much.
I watched 13 episodes of Daredevil in a span of a weekend once. That's not good.
Indeed. Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, what other characters in this?
Oh, there was Robot. He was kind of important.
Yeah, there's this guy. He's a robot, and
Then it turns out he's not a robot. He's actually a dude in a jar.
Yeah.
Like, he's deformed.
He has, like, some weird disease where, like, if oxygen touches his body...
It, like, burns him, and he's got all kinds of problems.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because there are these 2 villains. I forgot what they're called, but their whole...
Muller twins?
Yeah.
I think.
Their whole deal is they keep cloning each other to do crimes, and the thing with their cloning is they make a copy of each other, but, like, when you copy yourself, it's like the copy does, and you don't know who's, like, the real one. You just, like, wake up, and then, like, you're just like, oh, I'm, like, here. And Robot, you know, to make a long story short, he's kind of crushing on Monster Girl, who has, like, an interesting side effect to her power where every time she uses it, she gets younger.
So she's like 24, but looks like she's 12?
Yeah. And Robot, like, I guess, like, likes her, so he's just like, I want to have, like, a body that I can actually, like, you know, like, be with somebody. And he breaks the Muller twins out of prison, and they make, like, a clone body based off of that Rexplode guy, which is kind of weird. Like, you think he would just make, like, a different body, but I guess because Monster Girl thought Rexplode was attractive,
That was like, the thing, yeah. Rexplode does not take it well. He's like, what? Boundaries? Creepy.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, you think, like, you'd just be like, make me, like, a body that's just, like, not sick. Like...
I mean, maybe his DNA is just too corrupted that he can't really make himself. But he makes, like, a clone of Rexplode that's, like, a little kid.
Yeah, so he can...
Because otherwise it would be way too creepy.
Yeah.
Even if Monster Girl is supposed to be 24, it still would be very creepy.
Yeah, it would be weird. But yeah, that aspect too, where he...
It is funny seeing a 12-year-old down a beer, though.
Yeah. That is pretty funny. Drink responsibly, kids.
By which, don't drink at all, unless you want to. Then do it, but don't do too much.
Yeah.
This has been More You Know.
Yeah, I do like when he switches, you know, his, like, deformed body, you know, his mind gets copied into the clone, and, like, the clone, like, says, like, you know, I literally just, like, opened my eyes, and I'm, like, here now, but then, like, he sees, like, his deformed body, and, like...
It's still alive.
And he's just like, you've got to do it, and he, like, takes off, like, the air mask of the deformed body.
It's like, this was the plan.
Yeah. It's an interesting, you know, concept. It almost touches that, you know, oh my goodness, you know, are you or are you just like a thing that thinks you're the person that you are or whatever? Sort of like the Ghost in the Shell type of stuff.
I don't know anything about Ghost in the Shell.
The whole aspect of, like, you know, it's like, are you just a machine, or are you a machine that thinks you're a person, or are you actually a person? Like,
well, I mean, it also kind of reminds me of how in that new show Star Trek Picard, at the end of the season, Picard dies, and his brain is copied into a biological android that will then carry the show forward. So, spoiler alert, kids, Captain Picard's dead. The real Captain Picard died. There's a fake Captain Picard that's the lead of Star Trek Picard now. Unless Q in season 2 just snaps him back to normal.
maybe. I don't know.
The point is Captain Picard's dead.
He's dead.
There's that thing that Patrick Stewart's playing now is just a robot that thinks it's Picard.
Yeah. And I guess that's kind of like the situation with this cloning thing, although it is a little different. But it's an interesting approach to the cloning where, the Mahler twins are like, we kind of have like made it this way on purpose so, nobody would know who's the real one or the fake one. But, in your case, the robot, it's very obvious who is the real one. That was an interesting aspect. I don't know really where they're going to take him just because like he has like the body that looks like Rexplode, but
I don't think he's got his powers.
No. Yeah, we don't even know what.
I mean,
Rexplode has Gambit powers, I guess.
I don't know.
He can make things explode.
Some of the powers are kind of basic and stuff we've seen before. His are pretty basic.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of another character that was like sort of interesting. There's like the Taylor guy that's played by Mark Hamill, but
he's not that big of a role, but it's kind of cool to actually have someone, even though he's like a known person, he's actually a voice actor, because this show, they really front loaded it with like
a lot of famous people.
Yeah, like Amber's voiced by Zazie Beetz. We got J.K. Simmons, so he does a lot of voice acting too. Yeah. He's the yellow M&M.
Yeah, he's Tenzin in
but
Avatar.
Does that John Hamm guy really need to show up to play that like one security guard?
I forgot too, like that guy that plays Cecil, he's somebody famous, and then like his weird
it's like every once in a while you get like a real voice actor, like a Clancy Brown or Kevin Michael Richardson, who's the Mahler twins.
Right. I mean, it's weird. I feel like because they put so many like A-list celebrities in the show, the animation kind of suffered because of it, because the show does look okay, but like you would expect maybe the show could look like way better. There's a lot of corners cut sometimes. There are instances where the show does look really good. Like the final episode, for the most part, looks great.
Every once in a while you get that one moment where a few moments where it's just like, that's a static image.
Yeah.
I did kind of dig, and it was in one of the early episodes, and you kind of see it occasionally where when he's like flying around, it's the city is clearly like CGI, and it kind of reminded me of in the 90s Spider-Man cartoon when he would swing through the CGI city, but it looks way better now.
Yeah. There are some cool shots. Like one of the shots they kind of use a lot, but it is a cool shot, is when like Mark and Omni Man are just like really high above the city. It's like an interesting perspective that I was like, oh, that's kind of neat, because like you can see like the ground and like stuff, and they're kind of like above the clouds, but they're not like so high that everything looks like a speck. It's interesting because like it's like they're like high enough that the city looks far away, but they're not like as high as a plane. I thought that was like a interesting shot they would have a lot.
Well, one character only shows up in 2 episodes, but I imagine he's going to show up more. That I actually thought was kind of interesting was that Alan the alien, voiced by Seth Rogen.
Yeah, it's weird. He's like a Cyclops alien, and he can like... Yeah, space is weird in this show, because Mark can survive in space, however, he can't breathe in space. He has to like hold his breath. I forgot what they said, but didn't they say something like crazy where like they're like, yeah, like a adult Viltrumite can like hold their breath for like 2 weeks in space or something.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, and Alan the alien kind of talks to Mark telepathically.
I like, he's like, are you using your timeout?
Yeah. The whole aspect is like this alien has been coming to Earth every so many years, and Omni Man's just been beating the shit out of him. And then Mark finally like asks him like, why the hell do you keep coming here? And he's just like, oh, this is part of like the Galactic Alliance survey of like member planets. And it's like, this is Earth, right? And he's like, no, this is Earth. Is that with an E? Yes. And he's just like, oh crap. Like he's just been going to the wrong planet for like all these years.
Yeah, Urath's probably been destroyed.
Yeah. You get a bit of an exposition dump towards the end of the show where like Alan tells like Mark like, yeah, Viltrumites are bad news, and hey, there's one living on your planet, and Mark's like, yeah, I know, he's my dad.
I like how like both times they talk, they pull up a rock and they just sit down.
Yeah.
So I guess that guy's telepathic, because like how else can he hear him? I can't remember if that came up.
Yeah, he said he has like telepathic powers.
I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
I should have rewatched that scene.
He only shows up twice, but I guess he's a more important
There's definitely some
character.
characters that seem like they're going to be more important later. Like, what was that? Battle Beast?
Yeah, I know that guy is important just because I saw like the picture of like the ultimate bad guy of Invincible, and he has like a big fight with Battle Beast, and then I guess wears him as like a trophy. Like,
I didn't need to know that. Thanks. You just saw it here in real time. He spoiled something for me. And you.
yeah.
Ha! We're in the same frickin' boat.
Well,
Thanks.
maybe they'll take a different direction.
You don't know that.
I don't know. But I just saw the picture of it, and it was just like, huh, I'm like, I guess that guy kills Battle Beast. I don't know. Whatever. I'm sorry, Bill. Maybe Battle Beast will kill that guy instead, and he'll wear like weird human skin on him. Man, this is awkward. Michael Dorn plays Battle Beast. He's like a white lion man with braids. It's a cartoon.
You learned your lesson?
Yeah, I guess. Sorry.
Apology not accepted.
Okay.
So, Invincible.
Yes. It's good. I enjoyed it, to be honest. I will watch it when it comes out, whenever season 2 is, but
Probably a while. Animated shows take forever.
yeah,
Still waiting on season 4 of Young Justice.
that's true. Yeah, that should be coming out eventually.
Eventually, he's right.
I hope it's better than season 3.
Yeah, just take out the middle part.
Yeah, season 3 kind of had peaks and valleys.
Just get rid of the valley. Keep the peaks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe that's why you just do 8 episodes. Just it's all peak.
Yeah.
Like there was never like a lull where I was like, oh, this is just filler.
But yeah, overall it's a good show. I'm always excited to see like a new like action cartoon, and it's weird. We hardly get any action cartoons, it seems like.
I mean, where do you put them?
I mean, outside of Netflix. Netflix has been doing action cartoons, and they have dabbled in like, it's different when you see adult animation and for like that, like adult animation that's not anime, I guess,
I mean, the problem is it's like Cartoon Network won't air anything that's not Teen Titans Go. Nickelodeon won't air anything that's not SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Adult Swim, they're out. The only action shows they are like some anime, I guess.
They have anime, and then they seem to like be willing to air anything that Gendy Tartakovsky guy makes.
So outside of like, I guess maybe there's a couple Marvel cartoons that I don't follow. There's like the new Star Wars cartoon, Bad Batch, and I guess Young Justice, and now this. It's really nothing.
Yeah, there's like Dragon Prince on Netflix, but that like is more or less like young adult, like
I guess
teenager.
They're going all in on He-Man on Netflix as well.
Yeah, Invincible is adult animation. It's good. I don't know if I'm chopping at the bit to like, oh man, when's season 2 coming out? But I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
When it drops, I'll be like, oh cool, this is back. I like this.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other people that might like it more. I mean, if I had any like gripe, and it's not even like a gripe with the show, it's just something it's kind of being overdone, is the whole evil Superman thing between Omni Man and Homelander
and Superman
and Zack Snyder's Superman and the various evil Supermans that pop up in the Arrowverse. I'm tired of it. I'm done with it.
I think Netflix even has some evil Superman show coming out.
That Jupiter's Legacy thing, is that an evil Superman thing?
I don't know. Looks dumb, but maybe it's not. I don't know. It's not out yet.
I think it is out, and I think I saw a 36% Rotten Tomato score.
Huh. Well,
I mean, I could be wrong about that. I like the father-son aspect with Omni Man, but I'm like, just no more after this.
Yeah.
It's over. I don't want to see any more evil Superman. I want to see good Superman.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it's a good show if you like superheroes and want to see like just like something that's different, that's not Marvel, that's not DC, it's its own thing. It's definitely worth a check out. I'm curious enough that I might check out a comic if like I could find a trade that wasn't like a this thick and cost $40.
Oh yeah, without get one that's not an omnibus.
Yeah, like give me volume 1 and let me just like see if I like it. I don't want to like commit to like 40 issues.
Yeah.
Give me 12. I can do 12.
Here's like the first third.
Yeah, give me like the first, like give me up to the point where I don't know, Omni Man kills the Guardians, and maybe I could do something with that. I don't know.
Yeah, from what I've seen of the comic too, the show's animation is pretty close to how the comic looks too, which is nice to see in these type of shows. Sometimes when they animate stuff, they kind of go with like their own style, but this is kind of close to what I've seen with the comic. So, you know, they had to make some concessions, of course, for animation, but pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, it's never going to be 100%, but you want things, an adaptation to exist as its own thing to a degree too. So, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, want a violent superhero cartoon? Go watch it. Like, I think I was prepared for this because of like the animated DC movies have been getting progressively more violent.
Sure.
And then last year's Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, where half the Justice League die brutally horrible deaths. So that like, I was pretty like, when watching this, I was like, ooh, that's brutal. But I've seen stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
And that animated Mortal Kombat movie helped too. So I'm like, I'm not as jarred as I once would have been seeing a cartoon be this violent. So if you're okay with hyper violence, I think you should be fine with this. It's a cool show. It's got a likable lead. It's an interesting world, interesting characters, and it looks like an even more interesting world starting to open up. And they kind of tease it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to space. It looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it's a comic book world, and it's gonna be filled with comic book craziness. So check it out. Bye.